What a year, comrades. Unbelievable. Started off with bushfires. You were out there, we were out there in the front line, raising the money. Not being asked for it, that's what we do. Supporting those working communities, many of them maritime workers, but many not maritime workers, where they were most devastated. Because again, many of the institutions that they relied on to give them the material support weren't there. And then after that, the flooding. Same problem. It is certainly these things like the pandemic, COVID. You think about 12 months ago, the message 12 months ago, who could have seen those storm clouds coming? Certainly the institutions we rely on didn't, but the institutions that you rely on did. The Maritime Union of Australia, and by extension, our larger union. So we got out there and we supported those families. We supported them in their dire need in the fire and in the flooding. And in our own area in COVID, we supported our families. We're in the front line alongside the nurses and the health workers. We're in the front line of keeping the economy going, of making sure that communities are able to function in a proper fashion. That's us. But you think you get recognition? You don't. We had a couple of bargaining issues. And so what happens? Straight away, there's a smash up, isn't there? And that we're denigrated and vilified. Never get any thanks. Never get any thanks from those types of political institutions and many employers that are sucked into that take advantage of those things that were happening around them, not to support those workers and those communities, but to take advantage from it. And some of that happened as well. And we were plastered all over the papers at one stage. 40, it was funny when you think about it, 40 ships at anchor off Port Botany over a hiccup of a dispute, where we were bargaining in good faith, and after 18 months we'd pretty well had a gutful of it, and there were 40 ships, 40 Phantom ships. And as one of the comrades said, on the news, he said, well, what are you going to do? Mr. Morrison, he's going to send down the army if you don't stop that stoppage. Yeah, the army, he said. Don't need to send the army down there, you need to send the Navy. And so the shock jock said, why send the Navy? He said, to find those 40 ships. We can't find them, they've disappeared. See, these are the lies and the misinformation that continues to overwhelm us at a time of crisis when we're the essential workers in the supply chain. In the tugboat industry, oh, well, where's Spitzer? In the stevedores, the slow process of coming to terms that automation must be dealt with as part of a contract. And it's got to be productive. And we're not going to cop automation for the sake of union busting. And if there is going to be changes in how work is done, we need to agree to it and not have it force-fed us. But of course, under the cloak of COVID, where does that go? Down to Mr. Porter, onto the front page of the Murdoch Press or the Australian Financial Review or whatever it might be, that just line up and give us another kick like they've given us every year. We're celebrating who we are. We know who they are. We've got political imposters in this country that don't know how to service the national interests and the national good and the public good. We know. We're reaching out under extraordinarily difficult political, industrial, economic, health conditions. But we're reaching out to each other, reaching out through the ITF, reaching out through the World Trade Union movement, reaching out through our network and our coordination and our activity and our solidarity and our determination to make sure that there are decent rights, there is decent work, that there is protection for maritime workers, that we have a right to work in our own shipping industry. The Aurora Australis taken away, so-called Australian seafarers with no agreement, signed off by Morrison. We built that 40 years ago, 35 years ago. Labor government built that 35 years ago, taken away. No recognition for all of the work that we were doing, or the nature of the national industry. Seafarers flying across to their jobs, across and backwards, locked out of states, can't get to states, can't get to work. While at the same time, international seafarers are coming and going with no protection, imprisoned on their ships in the international trade, 400,000 of them. No thanks there. The Ruby Princess, completely deregulated industry that the federal government and each of the states have ownership of, that saw the worst excesses of COVID and the complete lack of response. Well, we were arguing with employers about our basic PPE, and we're being told you don't have to wear a mask. And we came through that. We stuck together, we stuck to our guns, we bargained. We got now an agreement down, negotiating agreement down at VICT, who's set up as a non-union outfit to undermine the standards of negotiation and the rights of collective bargaining and freedom of association. They were set up to do that. And that workforce has seen what it's like to be an employee for VICT, and by extension, ICTSI. And the International Transport Workers Federation have a campaign and continuing to accelerate the campaign to make sure ICTSI is held accountable. So we continue to fight in the towage industry, in every industry we're a part of, for our rights, for our recognition, for our respect, for our health. I'm down the union school. And one of the things that the National Conference has determined is that we need to get a view of politics and the world and understand our history, because these elite forces are going to continue to deprive and attack us of our industrial, our social, our economic, our national and our human rights. That's the reality of it. Our wonderful union has been around for so long. We've driven by courage and determination and leadership. Chris Gain, who's prepared to stand on his great reputation and standing and be the new National Secretary of the Construction, Forestry, Maritime, Mining and Energy Union, and doesn't want to have a conflict. And you heard about that stuff. Oh, where does that come from? There's a conflict of interest or there's not. There was a conflict of interest and that was removed. And Chris went into that job and has determined to be the leader after 2.5 years in this, putting together a union that can fight back across many unions, part of our militant history and determination and policies, and leading from the front. Congratulations, Chris. Ian Bray, another fantastic, the work that Ian's done in shipping campaigning. How can we build on that? Thank you, Dean Summers, for your wonderful service over many, many decades out of Western Australia, Western Australian seafarer. Did a lot of time, born and raised in Port Hedland. In that area, was part of the development of shipping and campaign and trade union alongside his father and the many other good comrades up and down that West Australian coast over many decades. Thanks, Dean. But now we've got Ian, who's been prepared to also walk into that position and make it work and continue on Dean's hard work. Paul McAleer. Thanks, Paul. Because part of what we're doing with VICT and the Global Network Terminal Operators, Patrick's and DP World, we're not going to be stood over. Hutchinson. We're bargaining good faith. We're hard workers. We believe we're probably, to quote the Belgian dock workers, we're probably the best dock workers in the world. They reckon they are. We say to them, well, we think we're probably the best. And we work around the fact that we are proud to do our jobs, but we bargain in good faith and we deliver and we expect them to deliver. And quite often they don't. And when you think about what went on with disgrace by Maersk to get out and bypass Botany in that Patrick's dispute because that dispute was interfering with their productivity and their business. What a load of crap. To line up behind what was a non-dispute to attack the MUA. Well, we're not copping that off Maersk. And Maersk are also APM, and they're also Svitzer that won't meet an agreement. And we need good comrades, leadership, with the courage and determination of Paul McAleer and Ian Bray to go into those areas and continue to galvanise the international campaign and bring it home for Australian dock workers, Australian wharfies and Australian seafarers, while protecting the rights of seafarers and dock workers and wharfies everywhere, and maritime work. See, all of this stuff is about continuing the militant history of this union. I hope you see it that way. That's the way the National Council sees it. And good new guys coming in, rank and file. Brad Dunn, you know, bit of a legend out there at Botany, you know, from the eastern suburbs around Matraville and Maroubra and those there. Greatly respected guy. Others that are coming in, George Gatkus, that's coming in you know, from a seafaring family in the west. Doug Heath, we know the work Doug's doing. Up there he's organising the northwest, the metalliferous, around the offshore hydrocarbon and related industries. Fantastic. What, over 2,000, 3,000 workers have come in to that joint AWU, MUA initiative? No one's sitting back here. We're going out there, standing up. We want to be counted. Will Tracy, who is determined that he will go back to Western Australia to fill that gap created by Chris, and Will going over there and continuing to use his tremendous organising skills and the respect that he has through the campaigns of VICT and many of the things that he's already done that makes him a household name in our great union. And Adrian Evans, who was not that long ago, you know, just because of his work ethic and his determination, making a determination to come to the national office. So we're not weakened by these changes, we're strengthened because of his determined courage in the face of adversity over there. Known him for a long time. Jamie Newland, again, these people, these comrades that have been working so hard for so long. And of course Brett Larkin, respected rank and filer from South Australia, coming into the South Australian branch office. It's a union with a proud history, but it's also a union with a proud future. But you have to go and win that future, and you win it through that diversity and those universal principles of solidarity and class struggle. And to do that, we have to understand where we've come from, to know where we're going. To everyone, particularly to the officers and staff, you know, thank you for your support. To all of those committee members out there, to the delegates, but to the whole of the rank and file. It's a great union. I'm as proud to be in it as you are. I'm proud to stand alongside you. Have a great season. We're going to turn the next year into something special. We're going to continue to take the fight up and we're going to win. Anyway, here's